So, today I'll be talking about an issue that I see a lot of you guys facing, and it's probably something you're facing, because you clicked on this video, and that is spam leads. Um, Essentially, these are dead leads, or basically leads that are spam, evidently, and you can tell that someone's trying to funnel hack you, or it just doesn't lead to any potential close, right? So these are just trash, to put it in the best way possible. And there are three ways, right, that I have seen, or there are three things that you need to fix, right, for you to significantly reduce the amount of spam leads that you get. And the first way that I'm going to talk about is your qualification, right? So I see a lot of people just having really, really poor qualification on their forms, right? And this doesn't only mean the form itself, but this could also mean the ad as well. And I'll explain what I mean exactly. So the issue is your ad or your form isn't filtering people well enough. So you're making it too easy for unqualified or uninterested users to submit their information. Examples would be, for example, if you're targeting homeowners and you have no, say, disqualifier at all, right? So you're not calling out homeowners. You have no language in the ad that relates to homeowners. And the next two are qualifying questions, right? So you have no budget, no service needed, no location, qualification. I've always recommended to have one out of three of these qualifiers, whether that's budget, service needed, or location. Personally, I always go for service needed. I'll add maybe one more qualification, like the timeline, in terms of when they'd like to complete the project or when they expect the project to be completed or started by. But I always go for service needed by default. Now, the way you can fix this is, of course, asking tougher or more specific questions, or you can use conditional formatting. Now, conditional formatting is essentially using if conditions in your instant form. So you'll find this in the top right section when you create a form, right? And you basically would be disqualifying them based off of if they fit within a certain criteria. So if they select, for example, that they're not a homeowner, it would not allow them to fill in the rest of the lead form. The second issue would be a form type issue, right? So you're probably using Facebook's more volume instant forms, right? Which, to be honest with you, in my experience, are notorious for spam because they autofill user information and they don't require intent. And you combine those two statements with the difference in targeting between more volume and higher intent. And of course, you get a situation where you do have poor quality leads and spam leads, right? Now, I would also like to say that I've tested with both, right? I've tested more volume and I've tested higher intent. And in my opinion, I have always found that higher intent would easily win in terms of just providing quality and reducing the spam. Now, you're probably asking yourself, in terms of the sentiment behind higher intent, I've heard people talking about higher intent, say having, um, yes, a higher quality, but a higher cost. To be honest with you, I've not found as much of a difference between the two, especially in terms of the cost. I have campaigns running higher intent that are getting $15 CPLs, and I have campaigns running a higher intent that are getting 40 CPLs, right? You can get your CPL to a comfortable number. It all depends on your creative and how strong your offer is as well. And I'm comfortable doing $40 an hour, say for specific $40 a lead for specific clients, because I can rest assured and I can sleep well knowing the quality is good. So for those clients that have a higher CPL than say average, there's a reason behind that. For example, it would be that they're targeting wealthier neighborhoods, say within a certain zip code, that have of course, that has an impact on the account's audience size. Now, the way to fix the form type issue is switching to higher intent forms, right? So you'd find it just under when you create a form under form type, you can just click higher intent. More volume will by default be selected for most ad accounts. The next fix for this would be using a custom landing page. However, I really, really, really recommend to do this in the second month, not in the first month. Um, you just don't have enough data to take those leads off Facebook in your first month, right? And there are very, very few scenarios that I can think about, unless, say, your service or the service of the client is super complex and it's difficult for it to be portrayed over an instant form, then use a landing page. But if it's a simple service and if it's explainable over an instant form, then use an instant form, especially higher intent instant forms. So yeah, definitely switch to higher intent instead of more volume. You will see a difference in the quality, and don't believe the misconception that the CPL will drastically increase. No, if you have a strong creative, if you have a strong offer, it it really doesn't matter. Now, the last one is probably where 70 to 80% of your spam leads are coming through, right? This is exactly where you're probably going to see the largest fix if you change these few things. It's in your audience targeting, right? So your ad is probably being shown to the wrong people, which include foreign click farms, people with no buying power or intent, wrong job titles, interests, or behaviors. Now, when I say wrong job titles, interests, or behaviors, this last bullet point, that only applies for people that are using interest based targeting. For you probably watching this video, or for majority of people that would be using broad, this does not apply to you unless you're using interest based targeting. Now, whenever targeting, you guys should keep into mind that your targeting should be location pin based with a mile radius. Unless, of course, you are targeting specific zip codes, right, for a specific reason, or you're targeting, um, even using current city doesn't only work. To be honest with you, you're much better off using a location pin with a mile radius. To be honest, that's your most ideal scenario. If you're using interest targeting, I want this to come as a note. If you're using interest targeting, make sure you've tested the interests and you've avoided mass interest targeting overlap. What mass interest targeting overlap means, right? Which is MITO, right? MITO is basically when you have interests, way too many interests that are overlapping with each other, right? So I've tested, for example, using 10 interests in one ad set and reducing that number until, say, until I've, say, two interests uh, per ad set. And I found much better results with a reduction in the number of interests per ad set because of the less likelihood of those interests overlapping with each other. So when you're stacking your interests, Just make sure that they don't overlap. The best way to reduce it, the best way to reduce or make sure of this is to reduce the amount of um, interest in your ad set. Keep it to a minimum per ad set, not per campaign. Okay. Now, the last thing I'd like to mention is this selection right here. This is part of the Advantage Plus audience selection. And when you turn this off, you will see Advantage Plus off. Now, I want this to be something that you guys understand. This selection is the 70 to 80% that I was talking about. So 70 to 80% of your of your spam leads will be directly due to this, right? Now, if you have an audience of more than 500,000, your estimated audience, if it's more than 500,000, there is no need to use this at all. You already have a large enough audience to start with, right? You do not need to expand it any further. If you have a estimated audience size that is less than 500,000, you're better off using this. However, do just note that when you have this ticked on, you will see spam leads come in. So your qualification would probably need to be much more strict, right? To be honest with you, in most cases, you're really just better off not selecting this, right? And the way you can find it is you just go into audience. This is on your ad set level. You go on, you click on your locations, and you'll see this at the bottom of locations. You'll see this, right? Just switch it off. By default, it's turned on. You're much better off switching it off. For the most of us that have an estimated audience size that is more than 500,000 when we're setting up our ads, right? Your best bet is to switch it off. That's that's it for today, guys. If you guys would like a PDF of this Miro board so you can just reference it much quicker or share it, etc., then let me know. Also, drop questions that you may have in the comments below, and I'll try to answer all of them. Also, just text me on Instagram if you have any questions as well, or any topics you guys would like me to cover, and I'll try to cover them in the next video. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.